Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is the part 3 of the 3-part series that I'm doing on full moon in Gemini as well as Venus retrograde and how we are closing 2021 and how we are together ushering in 2022. Today in the part 3, I'm going to cover a little bit about the health aspects that are coming as a result of the in conjunction that is in play as well as the Saturn Square Uranus that we are about to experience. I'll also talk about the global events that are happening as a result of that. And lastly, we'll cover the element of atonement that is embedded in this full moon that you and I need to go through. First, let's quickly cover the health aspects, and this is not medical advice. This is my experience looking at astrological aspects as well as looking at how usually they are described in health context. The first thing to understand is that in conjunction is a very key health aspects. Whenever you have in conjunction either in your natal chart or you see them as transits, you would experience some health issues or health issues linked to lack of adaptation at that time. There's a deficiency that is usually highlighted whenever we have in conjunction, and with Venus in conjunct moon, there is a feeling of love denied in some ways, and it could be self-love which is denied, but us not feeling enough loved and nurtured when Moon and Venus are in conjunction with each other. And I'll describe the aspect in a little bit, but this is a key issue of not adapting to a change, and in that lack of adaptation, somehow feeling not supported in the change as well, not supported in terms of feeling loved and nurtured. Sometimes when Moon and Venus, they are together and in conjunction, we are expecting too much from one person. We are expecting both emotional support as well as the traditional love from the same person. So there's a little bit of element of imbalance in a relationship or imbalance in our ask of a relationship, which shows up when these two planets are in conjunct with each other, and it becomes like a pressure cooker situation within our body where the in conjunction creates a little bit of pressure within our body, and then the pressure has to go somewhere, and it usually gets directed to one of the organs which are weak in that aspect at that time. In conjunction creates a body which is not absorbing anything appropriately. It is not absorbing nutrition appropriately, and nutritional absorption usually becomes lower when you are under stress as well or under pressure as well. So there is generally a deficiency which is created in the body, which shows up in a person feeling extremely hungry, because it's not you trying to just hog during holiday time. This is your body trying to compensate in some ways for a nutritional deficiency that it's experiencing, because it is not able to get enough nutrition at this time. It's not absorbing nutrition appropriately, and it can show up as an enormous appetite. And enormous appetite also comes when Venus is retrograde. Venus rules sugar. It comes with sweet tooth. So when Venus and Moon are together, which they are right now, you feel extremely hungry for something in your life, and that hunger is usually not for food, it is for something else, but it is showing up as food and it is compensated as food. This is not medical advice, but vitamin B2 is found to be helpful in this situation. You should always consult your health practitioner, or you can look at natural sources of vitamin B2 to compensate through. An aspect that can impact health at this time is the Venus-Pluto conjunction. Venus-Pluto conjunction, usually Venus rules our kidneys, Pluto is mutation. So something which is mutating, which is changing, a rebirth which is happening in our life, it can create a pressure on the kidneys, and kidney issues or kidneys weakness physically can be seen as edema in the body, the retaining water, especially around the knees, essentially if it's happening. Of course, you should consult your medical practitioner or a trained medical doctor for any of those conditions, but this is a key significator when Venus-Pluto is creating a pressure on our kidneys at this time. Pluto in Capricorn, it comes with issues of kidney stones and gallbladder stones which are created. Edema would be a key indicator that the kidneys are under pressure. Venus is also a key significator of vitamin E because it rules the skin and the softness of the skin. So when Venus, Pluto are together, there's a mutation of the nature of our skin in some ways, the skin that we wear. And vitamin E deficiency is significated sometimes when these two are together, which can just come as dryness of the skin, or sometimes stress-linked skin issues which need sulfur or another tropical treatment can show up with this. Pluto in Capricorn rules pituitary glands which generate hormones. So when moon conjunction is there, sometimes the hormonal ups and downs show up, and they show up on the skin as a result of that. So that's the kidney and the skin related with Venus Pluto. The third aspect which is in play right now, which can have health impact, is Saturn Square Uranus, and this is something that we have played with throughout this year. So it is not a new feeling or a new sensation within our body, but when this aspect becomes exact, sometimes the body gets a little bit of on an overdrive with this. Saturn Square Uranus vibrates your body at a different frequency, so it feels, as we have discussed before, in our nerves. You feel it in your nerves. There's a build up in our nerves, and it can come as nerves related pains or spasm or jerking or twitching of the muscles, or stress impacting immune system, or nervousness in general can be a little bit high. Whatever calms your nerves is critical to have, because it will help your health in turn. For me personally, I take magnesium because I am Uranus dominant, so coffee is like I definitely have it, but I need to have magnesium with it because coffee depletes magnesium in your body. I personally use magnesium, and I use bark remedies. This is not medical advice, just sharing what I do. And you should look at your own personal situation to decide what works for you, what not. But these are the things medically, astrologically, which are significated in terms of medical conditions or health related. I'll move to the global events now. One of the key things that Venus retrograde this year is coming with is the Pluto return of United States. As we have discussed, if you've been following me for a while, Pluto return of United States would be exact in February 2022. And this is not an event which happens on a specific date. The build up to Pluto transit, Pluto return, like any other Pluto transit, is spread over close to 3 to 4 years. It's a 3 to 4 years period. But when it becomes exact, which it would in February, it's like a midpoint of that process, a midpoint of a death rebirth process of a country, where a lot of things on the way to it have built up to create that situation of rebirth. And then the period following it is the period of rebirth normally, in my view. So things will intensify on the build up to February 2022. Whole of 2022, pretty much Pluto return will be exact for United States. Now Venus retrograde is happening right at the threshold of this aspect going exact. As we discussed in part 1, Venus retrograde comes at a threshold when you're about to make an important choice, when you're about to make an important decision. So there might be an important choice or critical decision that needs to be made in December or January, which impacts the Pluto return of United States, which has to deal with its financial abundance. Pluto in United States chart, looking at the whole signs, sits in second house of finances, second house of debt, loans, sources of income, and the natural resources of the country. So when Pluto return happens in that house, there is a rebirth of financial position of that country, of the currency and the prosperity of the country, and the elements of resources, natural resources of the country, as well as what are the sources of income of that country, which goes through a rebirth. Venus also deals with entertainment industry. So Venus, Pluto combined together, sometimes the entertainment, hotel, restaurant, industry, cosmetic, fashion industry, it goes through a rebirth as well. for the country. Social entertainment side of the nation goes through a rebirth, and there is sometimes resources, either the social entertainment is used for power play, or sometimes the resources and the currency of the country is used for power play. And that is very common with the United States. The United States has always used currency as a political tool, diplomacy rule, like inhibiting the access to the currency to place sanctions on other countries. So using currency as a tool to yield power over other nations or in diplomatic relationships is what Venus-Pluto signifies. And when Venus-Pluto is together during a retrograde, there might be a decision, a critical decision to use currency as a tool, as a diplomatic tool to dominate another country or to yield its power in the world. The other way this can play out, Venus retrograde in second house of a country is always to do with its financial condition itself, its own domestic financial condition. So there could be a financial issue that can come to light. As I said, Pluto in second house comes with a rebirth of the financial position of the country. So there might be a financial issue linked with its own domestic affairs that can come into focus as well. Venus also rules harmony and social unrest. When Venus is not in a good position, when Venus is going through this debauchery phase, which happens during Venus retrograde, it is a point of social unrest sometimes in a country. So if it is going back and forth, in general, there is some amount of social unrest that comes in, which is also shown by Saturn Uranus square. So there will be some amount of discord or some amount of social unrest that can come with Venus retrograde. Venus rules diplomacy. So when Venus is retrograde, there are diplomatic issues internationally that comes into play. And with Pluto over there, you can find that there will be some amount of power plays which will show up on a global basis, which might be in play. As I mentioned before, the influence of the solar eclipse that we just had was conjunct the warrior star Antares, which fell on the ascendant of United States. It signifies a warlike situation. So there's normally a warlike situation. Wars are not fought in the same way, as I mentioned. And with Venus, the wars can be economically fought, can be fought using currencies, essentially. In conjunction of 28th of December would be a key point, in my view, for United States. That could be a point where there might be a need for compromise. Even in our personal situations, you'll find that 28th of December will come with a need to compromise, which can come with some unexpected actions on a global basis. This full moon activates the supergiant red star Betelgeuse. I had to look up the pronunciation. I thought it's Beetlejuice, but no, it's Betelgeuse, with the nature of Mars and Mercury, essentially. So Mars and Mercury is words which are rash, words that are sharp in nature. So there will be certain words, in my view, which are going to be said. It's a very genius star. It is a very beneficial star in terms of sharpness of the mind, but it also comes with sharpness of the tongue. So ingenuity or some sort of insight which is not wrapped in soft wrapper. Some words which might be true, which might be a brilliant insight, but they will not be said in a soft manner, could come up. War is considered to be presaged by the star. War and carnage in some ways, unfortunately, comes with the star. So at a time when Venus is going retrograde, conjunct the power struggle aspect of Pluto, we can expect some words which are very, very powerful, transformative, and too quick to be taken back, which can be said on a diplomacy matter globally. And we can expect those words to have a more dramatic impact than normally would. This star, though, is a very powerful star for success. As I said, it comes with ingenuity of the mind. So one's work with words that is done, which lives beyond them. You can do some amount of creative work which goes beyond your living time, can be created at this time. An opportunity for immortality through the words that you write and the works that you create and the acumen of your mind. It can be achieved with it. It's a star of fame and success through ingenuity of the mind, through the brilliance of the mind and the words that you speak. So some of the best creative works can be created with this star being activated during Venus retrograde, which is a very, very good creative time. The full moon was also trine Jupiter. It brings an expansive opportunity, which we have been pursuing sometimes to culmination. Betelgeuse is a very, very powerful star for success. So if there was a opportunity you've been working on for a while, it can come to simple success without any complications. It can suddenly come through with this, and this is raw talent being rewarded, or talents which are used to bring joy, a different kind of success. It brings immense amount of joy and comfort to others, and it lives beyond the life of the person. This normally comes with natural charisma. The star comes with natural charisma. It sits on the sun of Boris Johnson. So sometimes this star can be used for a con man as well. It's a charm and charisma that can be used for either charming people or conning people. You can decide Boris Johnson is doing what. But since it sits on his sun, it would of course be a key factor for his future when it comes to his career and his position as the head of the country. With everything Gemini, it's a dual energy. We can use the star in dual way, but it does have huge, it comes with huge energy. Mars Mercury is powerful words, which can change your destiny, which can change your way, which can change the success of something that you've been working on for a long time. And it comes with simple success. There is not a complicated way of going about it. You simply do what you were meant to do, but just now with this positioning, it goes through. But it does presage some sort of war and carnage, unfortunately, on a global basis. So there's normally an event that comes with it. And the period from 9th to 18th of January globally will be very, very volatile. It's the period Mayans used to use to go to war. Leaders usually fail, or they resign at that time normally, or they do something which I said in the previous version is not considered to be the most intelligent thing to do. They normally mess up in some ways, and that usually happens around the 𝗤𝗽𝗪𝗂𝘀 rising, which is 9th to 18th of January. Uranus will also be going direct on 18th of January, so it will be a very, very volatile times when a lot of held up shifts and sudden shifts which were held up for a long time, they might come through. And they don't have to be negative generally. They could just be events that have to happen, but they happen with a snap. They happen suddenly at that moment. And the initiation of that volatile period we can see from next week itself, when Saturn Square Uranus happens, and it will become exact on 24th of December. We'll experience Saturn Square Uranus all the way till February. And you know the classic Saturn Square Uranus. People who want to have a certain kind of regulations and rules is Saturn. Saturn is order. Uranus is freedom. So this fight between rules and need for freedom, they will be at conflict with each other. And it always comes with protests. It always comes with people having an issue with their rights being impinged. It always comes with cryptocurrency news, which is a significator of Uranus, and Saturn is the rules on cryptocurrency. It always comes normally with the news on rules on cryptocurrency. It also is the aspect which has been at play throughout 2021 for us to give birth to our madness, our mad idea that we've been working on throughout 2021, giving a formal structure to that. So you and I would be working on giving a formal structure to that, which in my view will be the outcome of the February new moon that's happening in Aquarius, which will be conjunct Saturn squaring Uranus. So it is the physical outcome of all this madness you and I have experienced throughout 2021, or some sort of ahead of time idea that you have been trying to break through with throughout 2021. February 2022 new moon in Aquarius, which happens in the early part of February after the retrogrades, finally gives an outcome of that idea that you might have been working on back and forth, or ahead of time product that you might have been working on throughout 2021. I gave the description by sign of Saturn Square Uranus. I'll link it below in the description for you to access, so you can look at for your own zodiac sign what Saturn Square Uranus was supposed to give us, or what we were supposed to create with it. But that's what I think, this volatility is the triggering point. I think this aspect is the triggering point of it. Sometimes there's some things which have been building up for a while, and you need something very little to spark that up, and that's what usually comes with this outcome and the last aspect of Saturn Square Uranus. 28th of December, as I said, is the other key aspect, just following Saturn Square Uranus. On 24th of December, 28th of December is when Mars meets the war star Antares, with a need for compromise and an out of the blue action that might rattle us a little bit. And we can expect that not just on 28th of December, but the days leading up to it. So I think this all could be experienced around 24th, around Christmas. And as I mentioned, Venus-Pluto conjunction is also exact around that time. So around Christmas, there could be a surprising event. Sometimes this is a physical violence that happens around Christmas. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this, but the aspects do look very volatile at that time. And 28th of December would be key. We would have Mars at the fulcrum of Yod, formed with transit Uranus and Sun of United States. So this could be very, very key for US in my view. Significant, unexpected, disruptive event can happen around 28th of December. Mars on the fulcrum is a symbol of violence, of war, of combat, of military impulsive, or of choosing to fight a cause, and we can experience that. Activated by 4th of December, we've talked of that with respect to United States. 4th of December eclipse was meant to replace a war of effort in Afghanistan with another country, and we can see that as well. But sometimes I feel this can come with local violence, physical violence in the local community, which we need to be careful about, especially if you're residing in United States around 28th of December. Not to create any kind of misinformation here. I'm just trying to guide based on the astrological aspects. The eclipse was activated back in April. So, the 4th of December eclipse that I spoke of, it was activated in April. So all of us, maybe we release something, maybe we put an end to something in April. And now this very, very energetic aspect can be used as the positive impulse to replace that with something equally powerful and more in line with your future growth. So we can use that energy in a constructive fashion by adapting to change versus fighting against it. And the eclipse was activated back in April. If you would remember, that was the time that withdrawal from Afghanistan happened. So personally, you could look at what's lost or released in April, and we would start something new in place of that loss on war footing, but it won't be done in the way we thought. In conjuncts, as we discussed, take us through a detour. They take us through a change of course, which changes the destination that we were going to. So expect a big detour and expect your destination to change with it. And this detour will help you replace what was lost or what was released in April with something more apt for your growth. Coming back to the moon in conjunct Venus, and I'll move to the atonement part of it with it. Moon in conjunct Venus, which we are experiencing right now, and is a theme of the next 2 weeks. It increases the tension with a loved one. And usually with a female, there's an imbalance in relationship, which moon in conjunct Venus shows us. But from that very place of seemingly personal crisis comes a point when a change is made. It's like a valve that needs release, and it's very much pointing to an imbalance between our need to nurture somebody else versus trying to make something of ourselves. Moon is about nurturing others. It's about being the mother. Venus is about the harlot within us who wants us to be happy. So there is an imbalance that is shown between these two very components of our own self, of our own psyche. The need to nurture somebody else and the need to self-love. They are at conflict right now with these two, and it shows an imbalance where we are going from one extreme to the other in being either the mother or the lover. We're going from one extreme to the other. Health issues, they're steeped, which come up, they're steeped in lack of nurturing, and that get highlighted here. It points to the areas of our life that are starved in some ways from nurturing for a very long time. Venus is our choices and Moon is our emotional needs and emotional behavioral patterns, the patterns that we are used to exhibiting. When these two are in conjunction with each other, it means they're not jiving with each other. It means that the choices that we have made in our life, whether it is in love, whether it is in professions, the things and people we have chosen, they are not meeting the true emotional needs we have. That is one imbalance that gets highlighted. The second imbalance that sometimes comes is that our own emotional behavior, our own emotional patterns, the way we go after in a relationship, sometimes it does not result in the kind of love that we want out of another. So sometimes there is an imbalance that is shown in our emotional patterns which are not helping us achieve what we love or who we love. Sometimes the way we have our emotional habits, they are not in line with what we are trying to achieve. So these two, our choices and our behavior, our choices and our needs, they are shown at a clear imbalance in this aspect. We become a bottomless pit of needy love with this aspect. As I mentioned in the health aspect, our body is hungry. It's like starved in some ways. We are emotionally starved when this aspect happens, and we become very emotionally needy in this aspect. No matter how many people, how many things, how many food items we try or consume, they don't fill us up when this aspect is in play, because it's a kind of hunger that is being pointed to you, which will not be satisfied with what you're feeding it right now. Yet, honesty does not come very easy. Honesty is not going to be your forte at this time, because we're going to swing from one extreme to another with this aspect. We either become the this sacrificed mom, or the sacrificial person who just is always the poor one, always the one who's jilted, always the one who's cheated upon, always the one who's used. Either we go to that extreme, we become that sacrificed mother, universal mother, or we become the selfish harlot. We become the person who's just going to do what they want to do, irrespective of how anybody or anyone in our life is feeling about it. So we will vacillate between these two extremes, unable to satisfy either side of us. And it does not have to be that way. This is the aspect which pushes us to find a middle ground, and sometimes it tells us that you cannot achieve both the things from the same person. Sometimes you have to love on yourself enough if that's what you need, or sometimes your emotional needs need to be met in a different fashion as compared to your love needs. So nothing seems to help for long in this. Any kind of stimulus, it will go straight to the bottomless pit that I spoke about and disappear till we accept that need is more than just plastering another kind of passionate love affair, another kind of ego fight with somebody, or another shot of espresso or worse in terms of substance that we are consuming. So any kind of, this Venus-Pluto intensity, as I said, can be a distraction in this moment, because you're just trying to plaster over a deeper need that exists, a deeper emotional need that exists, which is not being satisfied right now. Or we can go to the other extreme of becoming the guilt-inducing, self-sacrificing self and say that I'm the goat and sacrifice me this Christmas kind of a thing. We have to deal with the incident. We have to deal with the hunger. We have to deal with the truth of this moment instead of plastering it over with another one of those things. And we have to deal with this in a way by sometimes going to the first point where you were in that pit, where first time you and I were left in that hunger in that pit. So where did it start? Sometimes we have to go there. And it's not the most entertaining journey, so it's not pleasant. Venus, Pluto can have unpleasant moments, and we might need to go there. We might need to go there. And it doesn't have to be always the mother, though sometimes this is the nurturing of the mother, which is normally pointed to, because everything has to be blamed on the mother. So sometimes it starts there, but sometimes it could be the first heartbreak. It could be someone you looked for emotional support from, but it never came because they were expecting to find a sassy harlot, but they found a nurturing moon in you. So disappointment can be mutual, which happened at that time because they were expecting something else out of you and you were expecting something else out of them, but you were left in that starved state from that point. So that starting point of being in that bottomless pit of emotional distraught is where we need to go sometimes, and that is where it needs to be healed. It's also pointing to the fact, as I said, that you cannot expect two things from the same person. Both emotional support and love in the traditional sense sometimes does not come from the same person. Sometimes it should not come from another person. So this archetype role of mother, the moon, and Venus, the lover, men have tried for eternity to get both in the same body and failed. It does not work. It creates hunger for the kind of satisfaction that you are looking for. If we are lucky, we find a person who can satisfy or meet at least one of those needs. And sometimes we tend to find a substance or a toy or something crap we eat to satisfy the other. And sometimes it comes in form of a mother who doesn't want you to grow up ever. So that need is sometimes satisfied by a husband or a wife, and a mother or a father who doesn't want you to grow up ever. So you're sometimes meeting both needs in that way. But it points to this clear dysfunction and imbalance between, sometimes it actually comes as an imbalance between a husband or a wife or a partner versus a mother or a father. So a clear conflict between trying to balance these two parts of your life or these two needs of your life will come very visually, in my view, into front over these next 2 weeks. And the imbalance with this aspect normally shows where in our life we are giving up too much of one need to meet the other need. To get emotional needs, am I letting the passionate love of my life get away? Or to get that fire going, am I never going to have my emotional needs met? So you will be shown where you're trying to go to one or the other extreme with this aspect. It doesn't have to be just love. With Venus in Capricorn, it also points to jobs and ambitions and career paths. The imbalance between our need to do something versus the desire to be somebody else. The classic imbalance between what we want for our emotional support and what we want to do for the love of our life, essentially, the passions. So there's a clear imbalance that can be shown in our career, in our life path as well. This aspect invites a lot of women envy. I'm not sure why, but it does. Maybe because as an independent observer, it might seem that a person has both the emotional nurturing as well as the love. This person seems to have both. She has the emotional support and she also has the passionate love. To a person who's independent observer, it would seem that the person has both because they see them swinging from the extremes of one to another, not knowing that they're trying to juggle two parts of their life. So it sometimes comes with envy, especially women envy, who we are related to. It comes with women envy from people who are sometimes very, very close part of our network, close part of our family sometimes. So should you care? No. But you could choose that observation to know yourself that grass is always greener on the other side, that to the other person it looks like a good play, but you're trying to just juggle two extremes of your life. Women don't tend to jive well under this influence. They are unfortunately influenced more by Venus retrograde because it does deal with the feminine within us. Even if you are a male, the intensity of emotions is very high, creating many charged up equations between women in this period. It's not pleasant to observe what's going on within each, and it's none of our business, to be honest, to be observing what's going on. Stay passionate that each one of us, stay compassionate to the other, that each one of us is dealing with big feelings. Each one of us is trying to juggle two different needs within us. And we bruise very easy during this time. Sensitivity is way too high in words as we deal with these imbalances of our own individual life. Imbalance always calls for trying to incorporate both elements in your life. For men, it might be a compromise between, mother figure and lover, or for all of us, it could be need and want, trying to balance the two sides. For women, it could be external imbalances, same as men, but more of internal process as well being worked out, because they will be feeling this, in my view, at more visceral level, at a more emotional level. North Node has made us pursue something relentlessly for the past 2 years with the eclipses in Gemini. So another imbalance that this might be showing you is we have worked, like when North Node is in a part of our chart, especially in Gemini, we are mentally obsessed with an idea and we pursue it. This is our once in 19-year pursuit of a new thought process, a new skill set, or a mindset, or a commercial way of being. Now, this full moon charged with this Venus retrograde is asking us to question that choice. Are you pursuing it so fervently? Is it truly what you love? Is it truly what you, or is it something that you were obsessed about, but is it truly what you want? Is it truly what you love? Because North Node pursuit is very blind pursuit. Path is not clear, but there is a karmic drive to just go after something. And in Gemini, it could be multiple things that you might be going after, but going through this mad drive of new skills, new mind, talking, writing, speaking, new mode of communications, connections, 24/7, being wired and connected with everything, because we're so scared that the physical connection has been severed with others. So we have to very quickly somehow find 10,000 channels to connect with others. Is it truly what you want? Is it truly what you need? Is it truly what is bringing you joy? Is 24/7 being connected with others, is that truly achieving what you wanted? Is this being on, it could be, for example, for me, it's doing this. Is it truly bringing you joy? Is it truly making you feel happy? Is it truly changing things for you? So Venus questions your joy. It questions, are you loving it? Are you enjoying it? Is it bringing you joy? Is it bringing you fun? So you're going to be sort of be questioned on that as well as part of this full moon. What you have been pursuing for the last 2 years so fervently, so with a passionate, I'm going for it kind of a mindset. Is it truly achieving what you love? This brings me to atonement. This brings me to the closure of this reading. As we bring this process of emptying the old mind and substituting it with new skills, thoughts, and patterns to a logical conclusion, and move to making more concrete, lucrative, fixed, long-lasting structures over the course of next 2 years, because North Node in Taurus is going to now say, let's simplify, let's fix things now. Is this the option that is going to give you the most value? Is this what you love? Then just go after this one option instead of the 10,000 that you have explored while North Node was in Gemini. So we are going to get some amount of fixity in options over the course of next 2 years. This full moon is happening at the degree of liberation from the past. This is a dual sign. Gemini is a dual sign. So you can look at this liberation from the past in 2 ways. The Sambian symbol of this degree of Gemini, it is shown as through bankruptcy. Society gives to an overburdened individual the opportunity to begin again. Through bankruptcy, society gives to an overburdened individual the opportunity to begin again. Rudyard called this degree as the degree of release from unbearable pressures, freeing one for new tasks. So there is a bankruptcy attached with this degree, and that's in a personal situation. You can think of it of some sort of giving up on an option because you're overloaded, because it's done what it could. You have tried it, you have tested it, it did not work. Failure attached to declaring bankruptcy has a negative connotation. As a society, we look at it as a failure. Giving up is a failure in society. So there's a failure attached to declaring bankruptcy, and it has a negative connotation to giving up or individual failure, while this failure is a failure to perform under a specific harsh economic environment. Bankruptcy, especially in the United States, is looked at as a society saying, okay, we all try to make this work for him. There was not enough demand. There was not enough good economic situation. In the current situation, it did not work. Bankruptcy is not meant to have a negative connotation. It is to say that the idea in a harsh economic environment did not work, and there is some amount of social responsibility, a collective responsibility to that failure versus an individual. So maybe as a family, maybe collectively as a group, maybe collectively as an individual, without blaming yourself, maybe you need to declare bankruptcy on something. Now the process doesn't have to be same for all of us. We each individually might declare bankruptcy in an area of our life where we need this pressure release, accepting that a relationship did not stand the pressure of living locked up in a house for 2 years, or totally unrelated, something else could happen. I mean, I'm not quoting real life examples, just as an example. Atonement, to forgive yourself for letting something go, leaving behind which might once have been an exciting idea, a wild and exuberant idea. But now we have a different consciousness. We have a different thought process. And from that different consciousness, a different physical reality must emerge. A different physical form must emerge. So give yourself the permission to leave something behind with less guilt. Less guilt of failure. Difficult to do, but that's what atonement is for. It's the guiltless failure, but more anticipation of opportunity to begin again. Moon in conjunct Pluto during the full moon points to the need to purge and purify, to leave a negative history or an emotional pattern of the past behind. It could be not a bankruptcy on a specific relationship. It could be a pattern. This did not help me before. This pattern did not work for me before. And purging that emotional pattern out of your life so it does not carry forward its baggage in the future relationships that you're about to embark upon. So the past failures does not ride on the new economic situation or the new projects that you're embarking upon. Giving permission for the future people and events in your life to be different from the past. Can we allow that? Give the future the permission of not being prejudged by the past people and the past failure. Can we allow that? Can we allow the future to be unencumbered in some ways? Sometimes the bankruptcy in our relationship with a female, especially in our life, a relationship that has undermined our personal satisfaction, somehow declaring bankruptcy on that can restore our ability to love, can restore our ability to care, can restore our ability to be positive about relationships. We have to declare failure sometimes in that relationship, And it's not a personal failure. A relationship always involves two people, more than one person. It's a collective failure. Because due to environmental factors, that relationship cannot anymore sustain the stress of time. We have to actively try to atone and not blame ourselves for the failure or the purge of that, what we need to leave behind to have a unencumbered future ahead for us. It's a pressure valve that needs release as we make space for 2022, as we make space for a new thought form to grow. That's what I have for you, and we're going to usher in 2022 together, unencumbered. Have a great new year ahead. I might have a couple of more videos to do before that, and I'll see you in those videos again. Thank you.